Okay, top of the morning to you. It is June 9th, Tuesday, June 9th, 2020, at just before 11 a.m. We're going to go for a little drive. Been a while since I made a video. A lot going on here. Governor Ralph Northam put into place Executive Order 63 not too long ago, which basically in order to put, man, this thing's like right in between. Is that better? Anyway, that's not better. That's not really better either, but what the hell. Basically, putting the entire state of Virginia basically on a self-quarantine order. And we're on basic can't go out of our house after 8 p.m. and between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. Isn't that nice of it? And I go out anyways. I don't give a shit. There's a reason it's called Executive Order. Because he is the executive in charge of this corporation of the Commonwealth of Virginia, which I went and read the charters of Virginia, and charter number 1 is that back in January 1st, 1963, the town of Virginia Beach merged with the county of Princess Anne and made a city of the first class. So it also said that the inhabitants thereof basically incorporated. Well, I don't know by whom's authority that they can just say that I incorporated. In fact, I wasn't even born January 1st, 1963. I wasn't even born in this Commonwealth. I was born in the state of Ohio and decided to retire out of the military back in 2006 and make Virginia my home, specifically Virginia Beach. And I made that decision back in 2006, and employed myself various different ways since I retired out of the Navy after 24 years. So, me noticing and understanding what my status is. Leaf blower's loud as shit. Anyway, knowing that my status is private, my status is not public. You can't, by edict, just put on a blanket charter of the city of Virginia Beach, January 1st, 1963, that I incorporated into the body politic. I'm not a part of the body politic. I'm a man. It's that. I'm not a taxpayer. Let me tell you this interesting story. I was doing some research the other day. It all started very routinely. Damn. I picked up my monthly mortgage statement. I've been laid off since March 26th. It's now June 9th. So I pretty much got all my to-do list things caught up. And now I have some real time on my hands to continue to think about other things that I started down a bunch of rabbit holes. And my gosh, once you start going down these rabbit holes, you start understanding what has been going on. Absolutely phenomenal. Talk about an eye-opening experience. That's to put it lightly. Man, I better slow down. I'm just talking and driving away in a 25-mile-an-hour zone through my hood, and started getting a little fast. Started getting excited talking about the things I've been learning. But anyway, I sent Governor Ralph Northam a letter a couple weeks ago, and I also sent our mayor of Virginia Beach, Robert Bobby Dyer, a letter too. I haven't really heard much out of our mayor of this corporation of Virginia Beach, but the mayor has the city has the responsibility to look after our happiness. Well, if by just rolling over to whatever Governor Ralph Northam, who happens to spend most of his time in D.C. with the swamp, if our mayor just rolls over and decides not to take care of the best interests of we the people, and continuing to put more draconian lockdowns and mandatory use of, well, they're requesting mandatory use, but they really have no jurisdiction over us. But a lot of people don't know that. And perception is a large part of this game. So if the sheeple running around don't know that the governor has no authority over private men and women, then they're just gonna, it becomes the herd mentality. You see, most of the people doing it, except some of the enlightened ones that have actually looked into this and understand who they are and just stop listening to all the other, well, first of all, the news media. I don't even pay attention to them anymore. I don't give two shits what any form of news, mainstream news media has to say. I just don't. I haven't watched them for probably close to 2 years now, and my life has been much happier. It gives me more time to do research, to look into the laws, the codes, the ordinances, the regulations. So, let me get back to the, let's get back to my mortgage statement. This was more recent. This was, oh sweet. Seen one of those new Challenger wide bodies. Them things are nice. But a lot of plastic. I don't care for plastic. So anyway, let me get back to my, I keep getting detoured, but so I started looking at my mortgage statement, and I got to looking at my escrow account, and I got to looking at the distribution towards taxes. So it got me to thinking, man, that's a lot of tax I'm paying. Okay, I see that I'm paying the tax. Now I'm asking myself, why am I paying the tax? What dictates why I am legally bound to pay this tax? So I went right to the source. I went right to my mortgage company, and I called up a person and told him, I had a question on my escrow account, specifically concerning property tax. So they transferred me to somebody who supposed expert about property taxes concerning the mortgage. So I talked to this individual, very helpful, very nice. And I asked her, a very specific question. And that question was, Yeah, I understand I'm paying these taxes. I've been paying these taxes for 25 years. So I know they exist. But my question is, how do you know how much? And who do you know how to, and how do you know who to pay it to? Those were my two questions. So the lady informed me, she's like, well, you know, the city treasurer of Virginia Beach sends us a bill. I'm like, oh, okay. I said, well, since you know where to send it, you have, contact information, a person I can call? They're like, sure, yeah. So they gave me a phone number for the City of Virginia Beach treasurer. So I called the City of Virginia Beach treasurer, and I got transferred around a couple times. First time I got transferred, then the guy hung up on me. So I called back. Finally got to someone that would talk to me. And they went, well, everybody's got to pay their taxes. It goes to the schools, it goes to the fire departments. I said, yeah, I understand that. I said, I'm not disputing anything. I'm just asking for information. And so after a bunch of hemming and hawing, they're like, well, I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to put you through to the Commissioner of the Revenue. So I said, okay. They transferred me over to the Commissioner of the Revenue. I talked to that office. Of course, I never spoke to the commissioner, but I spoke to their office. Same thing, asked the same questions. They gave me the same runaround about, well, pay our taxes, but they couldn't tell me what required it. So, being that the Commissioner of the Revenue couldn't answer those questions, they transferred me over to the city manager. The Corporation of Virginia Beach's manager. Well, they must know. They must know, right? Well, guess what? They couldn't answer the question either. So who do they transfer me to? The city manager's attorney's office. Yeah, it goes back to fucking attorneys. Apparently they're the only ones that know anything, right? So you got to end up going to an attorney. All these officials that are paid on our budgets don't seem to know anything. You got to go to the attorney. So I'm talking to this man, nice gentleman named Derek. I'm not going to say his last name, but very helpful. And I asked him the same questions. He knew exactly what I was asking for. He understood. He was very helpful. And he pointed me, excuse me, he pointed me to the Constitution. Actually, no, I take that back. He pointed me to a Virginia Code of Virginia, title and subsection that has to do with property taxes. I'm like, excellent. That's exactly what I was looking for. I just needed a direction to go. I'm familiar with the Code of Virginia, but I couldn't find it myself. And I said, I guess that's what I'm looking for. So, armed with that information, I thank him for his time, and I hung up. Well, that turned into 10 hours on the computer that day. And what I found was absolutely astounding. I forget which title and I forget which subsection and all that. I've got it all written down. I didn't commit any of it to memory for obvious reasons. But what I found was a whole bunch of legalese and trickery. Mastering of legalese trickery in our Virginia codes. Basically, first thing we're labeled as, well, let me go back. The code derives its authority from Article 10, Section 4 of the Virginia Beach Constitution, which that's one specific section, one specific article in our Constitution is what gives the Commonwealth of Virginia the right to tax us on our property taxes, specific real estate, real property. So I read that verbatim over and over and over, that section in the Constitution, and try to, look up words I didn't understand or thought they might have a different meaning. And lo and behold, some of them did. And it's very deceptive how it's written in the Constitution. Basically says they have the authorization to levy taxes for subjects under their jurisdiction. So, that begs the question, what are subjects under their jurisdiction? So I got to looking it up. I found out I am not a subject under their jurisdiction. They're assuming I think I'm a subject under their jurisdiction, but I know now that I'm not. I didn't know that before. So I went back to the Virginia codes, and it's a string, they string out this subsection, blah, blah, blah. So I started reading all of them. And where it really gets down to it is being called a taxpayer. We're automatically labeled as a taxpayer. So what is a taxpayer? It defines what a taxpayer is. Basically, it's a person who is subject to tax. There again, goes back to subject. Who or what is the subject? And they never answer that question. That's an open question. I went through and completely defined what a person is. And then it's an individual, and then it's a resident, and then it's a real person. All of these things, and I went and I looked up everyone's definitions in their codes. Some of them, the Virginia code, never even provided a definition of some of these words, so I had to go to the U.S. code, find out what the U.S. code of that definition was of these words. And it's such a rabbit hole. It took me 10 hours to whittle this down and to figure out that I'm being deceived. I basically proved, and I wrote a letter to that attorney in the city manager's office, the city attorney. I wrote a letter to him. Broke down what I've discovered. Broke down the definitions, the sources. There's a 6-page letter to this guy. It was well written, it's professional. I took my time. I spoke deliberately. Asking him the question, this is Dana, this is what I discovered. And I labeled it basically as a question. If you know something contrary to this, or if I'm wrong, please help me out here. I'm just trying to understand this information, and this is what I get. I hope I'm wrong, but if I'm not wrong, this has some severe implications on how this entire state is being run and taxed. And by what method of deceivery or deception, legalese that they're putting on us, men and women, in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I'm not a resident. I'm not an individual. I'm not a person. I'm not a taxpayer. And all these words, it's pretty interesting actually, the word individual. You look up the word individual, and basically where they use the word individual, it always puts it in a connotation of being under some sort of jurisdiction. whether it be a court jurisdiction, whether it be a municipality's jurisdiction, whether it be a law enforcement jurisdiction, the way it speaks and the way it uses that word, it's always under some sort of jurisdiction. Well, if you don't volunteer to be under a jurisdiction, then you're basically not an individual. You're not a resident. You're not these things. So, the very next day, this was just late last week. This was like Friday. I sent this letter out to the city's attorney's office. And it was basically asking questions. Am I right? What have I done wrong? You know, have I looked at something incorrectly? Have I overlooked something? And basically asking for further information. Hopefully I hear back from him. I did this all in a letter form. I didn't send email. I just physically sent it through the mail. I didn't send it registered because it's just questions. It's nothing. It's really not anything legal. It's just talking about law itself. And I'm really looking forward to the response I get from him, because I really think I've done a good job in burrowing down to the essence of what the problem is. And the essence of what the problem is where do they get their authority? Because I haven't given it to them. I don't have a driver's license. The next thing I'm going to have to dig into is the deed to my property, because that also took me down some roads, listening to some folks, listening to Crow777.com radio. They had a good special. I think it was episode 255. If you never listened to Crow777 or Jason Lindgren on the Crow777 radio website, I suggest you do that. Man, they have some awesome information. Absolutely awesome. They got me going down, looking into my deed. However, I can't really do anything about my deed until I pay my mortgage off. Which, once I become a secured party, since I've been paying on this mortgage for like 25 years now, and I've paid way and above more than what this house is worth several times, like 3 times over what this house is worth. And I, over the years, made the mistake of rolling some debt into my house. Thought that was the right thing to do, you know, during divorce, refinance, that sort of thing. But I only have one mortgage on the house. And I've been paying a lot extra on it, trying to get it paid off. And you know as well as I do, that is such an uphill battle. I mean, my mortgage currently is 4.5% fixed. You think, you know what, you take a certain amount of money, tack on 4.5% interest, and that's reasonable. I knew what it was when I got into it. I signed it. You know, I'm not going to back out of it. But you look at all the money you pay. I pay over $600 a month the way my mortgage. They get all their interest up front. Those mortgage companies own your property. They're the first ones to have a lien on it. So if it should default, it's going to go back to them. So they already own the house. They own the first lien on the property. But when the city or a municipality or another jurisdiction comes on and places another lien on it, because you've defaulted somewhere, that becomes a superior lien, which is a whole nother deal, which I don't quite understand. So, the very next day, actually the letters went out in the mail the same day, but then I went ahead and I wrote the city treasurer. I only wrote her a 5-page letter. Sounds like a pretty nice girl. Lee Henderson is her name. So I wrote her a letter and sent it through snail mail. But I'd actually found a little bit of additional information that I put on that letter and formed it in the form of a question and laid out everything that I'd laid out to Dana, the city attorney. But by the time I wrote the city treasurer, I already accumulated a little bit more evidence to something not right. And I was asking her questions, and I asked her for a response. And of course I haven't received a response yet. Hasn't quite been, it's only been about 3 days. But going downtown Oceanfront here, it's kind of loud here. I haven't been down here in a while. I just wanted to see what's going on. And what I see going on is a lot of stuff. For being on lockdown, man, this place is bumping. Just heading down Atlantic now. See what's going on down here. You've been down here in a few months. A couple weeks maybe. Got a Challenger RT. This place is pretty tore up last time I was down here. I think I might have to put on some other glasses for this. I don't want to miss anything here. Put my old man glasses on. There we go. Now I can see better anyways. So, by all accounts, I hope I'm wrong on this. I hope I'm not right, because if I'm right in my assessment and them wrong in taxing me on my personal property, then I've been deceived for 25 years. And I really don't like going to bed thinking there's a whole lot of people involved in this. And it's pretty disheartening to think that this many people would be involved in this sort of deception. Knowingly. I don't think it's knowingly, because the way these codes are written, you have to break out and look up definitions. You can't go on what you use the word on the street as, because these people that framed this, they were some crafty bastards. They were crafty. And they know what they're doing. And they're doing this for a reason. They literally have done this for a reason. Look at all the money they're getting. Just in Virginia Beach alone, there's over 500,000 people in Virginia Beach. And there is some expensive property in Virginia Beach. All over this area. Chesapeake, Norfolk, Virginia Beach. All of these places, there is some very high-end real estate. And the amount of taxes that some of these people are paying on their real estate, I would not have to want to foot that bill. I wouldn't even be able to afford their tax payment. And multiply that times all the cities. The millions of people that live in Virginia as an entire basically state, but it's a commonwealth. There's really not a big, huge difference between the two. There are, but it's just a different way they regulate themselves, basically. But it's a state. In fact, it's one of the first original colonies in the 13 colonies. It's one of the original founding colonies of this republic, or what is supposed to be a republic. It's gotten far, far away from that. So what are the implications? What should I do? If I've stated my claims basically to the lawyer in the Virginia Beach Attorney's Office, to the treasurer of the corporation of Virginia Beach, Charger RT now. But what are my obligations? What if there's silent consent back from those two people? And I told both of them that I sent both of them a letter, so they both know that they both have this information. I wonder if the treasurer and the attorney will actually sit down together and confirm or collaborate on the information that I provided and decide on themselves that this is also true. Then what? Man, there's people out skateboarding, riding bikes. This is on a Tuesday. That's awesome. I'll tell you what, the old governor could lock the people down, but the people are saying, fuck you. And you know what? They're not going to stop commerce. These people are spending money down here. Do you think they're going to stop commerce? Hells to the no. Do you think they're going to want these people's monies out of their wallet? Hell yes, they do. It's ridiculous to think about this. It's ridiculous. The whole thing is a facade. So, back to my point. If I receive silent acquiescence, which I believe that's what's going to happen, then I'm going to have to send out some official notification to a whole bunch of people. Registered, return receipt required. And basically put them on notice that I know what's going on. And I'm going to have to make some sort of a lawsuit. I'm going to have to do this on my own. I have to get real smart, real quick before I do this. But I'm going to have these two letters because they're dated and a person's name is on them. I'm going to have that as evidence. I don't have a thing that they received it, but it didn't come back to me, or probably won't come back to me. I probably just won't hear anything because that's some damn valuable information. But it's big, it's huge. And it all started over me looking at my mortgage statement. And specifically my escrow account. Wow. Why am I paying all these taxes? You know what? That's a damn good question. Rich, why in the hell are you paying these taxes when there's no law and authority stating that you're required to? And I'm going to pose that question. I'm going to put the burden on the court. Provide me the information that you, one, have jurisdiction over me that makes me personally responsible for it. Now, being that here's the catch, though. Here's where I might get caught up. If the mortgage company is obligated to pay those taxes, is it in my contract that in turn gets put back on me? If that's the case, there's going to be very little I can do until I pay this off. Because you can believe that even after I pay this off, they're still going to charge me taxes. North Carolina is doing the same thing for a little chunk of land I got in North Carolina. But I don't pay much. It's not much. There's not much on that. It's just a wooded 1 acre lot at Lake Gaston. But they still hit me for about $1.40 every year. No structure on it. There's no, I didn't do anything. It was an investment property. Which now I'm looking forward to maybe just retiring, getting the hell out of this place, and going to North Carolina where things are a little more laid back. Get the hell away from the big city. Now that I've been semi-retired since March 26th, I'm starting to see things in a much different light. Talk about enlightenment. You talk about an enlightenment. Oh my gosh. I think I'm going to go home 264 instead of taking the back roads. Since I kind of haven't been going anywhere lately because there's not much to do. It's been hotter than hell out, so I've spent a lot of time at home on the computer doing research, watching a lot of high frequency radio with Yusuf El, getting his take on a lot of different things. Just to watch his video he put up either yesterday or early this morning. I don't remember when he put it up, but it's about the Zionistic rules. And I forget the exact name of the document, but some document got out saying how all these Jews rule everybody and the methods that they use. And it's very, very interesting. And I do believe that. There's people out there who want to take over, sap our wealth. We're supposed to be free beings. Are we free if we're subject to all this taxation? Are we truly free? I don't think so. Shit, just passed my street. Nah, that ain't the one I want anyway. I'm on this one. But anyway, I don't think we're free. Is this the one I want? No, this ain't the one I want. Where is it? No, this ain't the one I want. Are we free if we're still subject to tax? My answer would have to that would have to be hell no. Those that have the power to tax also have the power to destroy. But do they have the power to tax? From everything I've read, no. They don't have the authority. If you don't have the jurisdiction, you don't have the authority. If you don't have the authority, you don't have the jurisdiction. The only other way they can get authority or jurisdiction is if you give it to them. If you acquiesce to their presumed authority, and that's what they're running on, folks. That's what these predators are banking on. Something else I explained to the letter to the city treasurer was the fact that us, the private men and women that live in the Commonwealth, are not supposed to be taxed to run the Commonwealth. We are supposed to be taxed. I'm sorry. The Commonwealth is supposed to tax the business. The businesses. It is a privilege for them to do business in the Commonwealth. is supposed to be mutually beneficial to the men and women that live in the Commonwealth and the businesses that are taxed to conduct their business in the Commonwealth. It's our Commonwealth. And in order for a corporation, an entity, to come in and be engaged and be authorized and licensed through the municipality to conduct commerce in our city, then they pay a tax for it. That's what is supposed to regulate the government, or actually the corporation. That's how they're supposed to be funded. You ever notice all the nice courthouse buildings, the libraries, if they're not private, if they're public libraries, all of the public buildings. You ever notice how nice and extravagant, how well built they are? That's because they're taxing the shit out of us. You notice how the government just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger? That's because their budget is huge. They're taxing us. They're using unlawful money that they receive from us through illegal taxation to grow their monopoly, to have more police officers. So the police officers have better equipment. Hell, they virtually have tanks they drive around. You think that stuff isn't expensive? All the body armor, all the weapons they have, the lethal, non-lethal weapons that the police use against people. You know what the police are actually there for? And they'll tell you, they're there to protect the public. Well, guess what, folks? The public is not me and you. I am not in the public, I am private. The police are not there for us. They're there for the corporations. They're make sure all these rioters and looters don't break in and cause the people engaged in commerce, who pay the majority of, well, I don't even know if they pay the majority of the taxes anymore. As much real estate or personal property tax that I'm paying, I might be paying the majority of their salary. I don't know. Damn, I'm going 70 miles an hour. At least crank it back a little bit. Jesus. But anyway, look it up. Read the Virginia Code. Read the United States Code. Look at here's a good one. Look at the United States Code. And I think it's titled 26. I can't remember exactly. Look at the definition of a vehicle. This is the United States Code. Just look it up. Do yourself a favor. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You got to start reading this shit. And you got to start seeing the deception that's going on. It is voluminous. There is a cornucopia of deception being done, both by the federal corporation. Get around this damn van. Both by the federal corporation and the state corporation and the municipality corporation. It's unbelievable. People call it rabbit holes. It is a tunnel complex of interconnected and intertwined rabbit holes that makes it almost to the point where you get frustrated trying to figure something out. Because everything's circular. Definitions of words are circular. You look up vehicle, you look up motor vehicle, there's compound words. Then they'll have definitions for individual words. Then later on you'll read where there's a compound word. Oh, now you got to look up that. I mean, it's just, it's intertwined quagmire of deception and deceit. It's daunting unless you have time and you have the intestinal fortitude to sit down, devote some brain power that has not been corroded by fluoride, and you're not all crusted up upstairs. Oh, something else. I just bought a home distilling unit yesterday, water distilling unit. It's supposed to be one of the best. I think it's by Pure Water. It's an old stainless steel unit. It was like, I don't know, $655. I bought some extra shit, some cleaning solution, some extra filter pads. By the time shipping, I bought it directly from the company. I didn't go through Amazon. I've never bought anything through Amazon. I will never, ever, ever buy anything through Amazon, ever. If the only way I can get something is through Amazon, I will go without. Read the terms of service of Amazon. I went to buy something through Amazon one time. And most people don't read this. They don't. They don't look into it. They don't read it. I had this whole thing done up I was going to buy. So, I almost hit the agree button. But instead I hit, this was probably a couple years ago. This was a couple years ago. And then I hit the read the terms of service. Terms of service popped up. You know that they take your information and share it with what they call third parties. And you have to go figure out what they call a third party. What they call a third party can be anybody. Advertisers. You don't know. So, everybody, all you Amazon people out there, you're all pissed off because you got this or you got that. You got all this mail coming in, unsolicited phone calls. Every time you use them, you're accepting their terms of service. And what those third parties do with your information, you don't know. Because they don't tell you. They can't tell you because they don't know. They don't really care. Those third parties are paying Amazon for that information. They will give your information to law enforcement. Yeah. Healthcare professionals. Anyway, I'm getting in another... See how many rabbit holes there are? Just talking about Amazon is another rabbit hole. They're everywhere. But anyway, so it's supposed to be coming in 2 days. By the time FedEx, like $84 to ship this thing, it's like 30 some odd pounds. $732 for this thing. That's like 2 years of buying, 2.5 years of buying distilled water for approximately $1 a gallon. It's going up, by the way. It's up over $1 a gallon now. I probably consume pretty close to about a gallon a day. I use use it sometimes for making certain things when I'm cooking. Like I make my own jelly, which is awesome. I love that, by the way. That's fun. I got about 30 jars of different kinds of jelly that I made, and it's awesome. I absolutely love it. No preservatives, all natural, no chemicals. It's absolutely awesome. And so, damn, it's getting hot. 85 degrees. So, I'm almost back home. Distilled water. Beautiful day. Give me another warm one. I'm going to probably spend about half my day watching informational YouTube videos and looking up more law and documenting all of this. I'm also, since all my vehicles, see, I'm already trapped. But since all of my personal property, meaning my modes of transportation, which are automobiles and motorcycles, have been unregistered from the corporation, I should also no longer be taxed for them. So we'll see what happens when they go to send me a bill. Sheeple in his car all by himself with a mask on, his windows rolled up. Anyway, towards the end of the year when they go to send me a bill for my taxes, if they do, it's going to be interesting. Because I'm not in their jurisdiction. Neither are my vehicles. My modes of transportation. Because technically, it can only be a vehicle if it's engaged in commerce. So if I go out and buy a dump truck, and I'm engaged in commerce and hiring goods for a fee, or transporting goods for a fee, then I'm engaged in commerce. I have to have a driver's license. I know that. I know that to be a fact. Undisputed fact. I would go get a driver's license. I would register that dump truck. I would pay tax on it. I would pay registration every year or every other year. It'd be subject to inspections because it's not supposed to harm the people, the private people. Notice I didn't say citizens, because I'm not a citizen. I'm not a person, I'm a man. You have to know these things. It's okay to engage in commerce, but you have to know their law. You have to do it correctly. They got 7 ways of Sunday and sticking a foot up in your ass if you do something wrong. And they got you. You're engaged in commerce and you break one of their commercial laws, then what? Then you're in their jurisdiction, in their court. That's a bad place to be. I hate it when people don't use their fucking turn signals. They slam on their turn right in front of you, slam on their fucking brakes to merge off a road and not have a fucking signal on. But I don't do that. Because that's bad. That's bad. It's a bad thing to do to people. And I'm not going to do bad things to people. I'm not going to holler at them. I'm not going to scream and carry on and raise a big fuss with anybody. I'm just not going to treat people that way. I respect people. I'm not going to road rage. Sometimes I want to, but I refuse to do that. I will not do that. You know, in my pickup, I used to carry, it's actually still in there, this like bat that my son made in grade school, some woodworking project. And it was supposed to be a miniature replica of a baseball bat. He never quite finished it. He ended up making something else instead. He changed his mind. But I ended up with this bat. It's probably about 2 feet long. And it's like a club. Made out of pine. It's not that heavy or anything. But it's a club, basically. And I've carried that in my truck. Hoping to God that I'm never going to have to use this thing. Because, you know, even though I have a concealed carry permit, and I have several weapons I can carry, I've only ever carried like once or twice, and it was in a rare circumstance. I don't put myself in a circumstance where I think I need to carry. Why would one do that? Alright, coming back into the cribbage. But I've often asked myself, why would you put yourself in a position where where if you didn't have to, why would you put yourself in a position where you would go somewhere where you have to be armed? Why would you do that? I'll tell you what, y'all, it is hot as hell. The minute you damn close your vehicle, your seat, your automobile up. Anyway, it's a wonderful day. Glad I got to chat with you guys. This is almost an hour long. We'll see what happens with this revelation of basically the tax that we pay on our mortgage or our houses, be in the form of escrow payments that go, payments that go into your escrow account, which covers your taxes and insurance, which, I get. They got to estimate what your insurance payment's going to be, because your insurance company always changes their rates. The city does constant assessments on homes every year or every other year, however often they do it. And that changes, so your taxable value changes. So they have to estimate what it's going to be at the end of the year when those payments become due. So they throw it in an account, call it an escrow account. So I'm really, really, really curious what the corporation's response is going to be to the questions I bring up about authorized to even levy a tax on me. So I'll keep you updated. I'm really, really interested. I check my mail every day, hoping one of them's going to write me. But it's been less than a week. I don't expect anything for a couple weeks, realistically. Because, first of all, if they realize this is correct, if they do a little digging, they really don't have to do any digging. I did it all. I spelled it all out. I laid it out in bullet formats. I'd state the fact right out of the damn Constitution, right out of the statute, right out of Virginia Code. I cut and pasted it. And it's really indisputable. I put the numbers in. I put definitions of words and where they came from. I did all this research. Basically asking a question, is there something out there that turns all this around, because from what I'm seeing, this is it. This is the chain of events that leads to the ability of one's ability to level or levy a tax. It all stems from the Constitution. That's what grants the power to. Actually, doesn't grant. Actually, it does. It grants the power to the corporations, because they already established that they are a corporation right in the charter, Virginia Beach Charter. The Constitution is written that way. They basically say Article 10, Section 1, which the code doesn't derive its power to tax from. It derives its power to tax from Section 10, Article 10, Section 4. One section of Article 10 is where it gets its authorization to tax. But if you read before Article 4 and you look at Article 1, only the people that are only subjects, only, it's worded to such a way, I don't remember the exact verbiage, but it's worded that only the people that, only the entities that are subject to the tax. So, if you just look at what the statute pulls its authority from, is from Article 10, Section 4, which doesn't say that. Article 10, Section 1 says that. So really, they don't have any authority at all. They just pulled it out of thin air, out of one of the sections of Article 10 of our Constitution. They don't just say Article 10, which is the taxation article. Nope. They pull its authority out of Article 10, Section 4 only. It specifically states only that section. So, I'm interested to find out. And you're going to come along on my journey. And maybe through some comments or whatever. You know, if you guys have any advice, if you know anything, I'm all ears, man. I don't turn down any information. I don't have any preconceived notions. Like Crow and Jason say on Crow 777, that belief is the enemy of knowing. So I try not to hold beliefs. If I find out something factual to the contrary of what might have been a preconception, my preconception falls by the wayside and I form a new one. And I hold to it until it is superseded. And it has to be very factual, and I have to verify it. I don't just take someone's word or one or two people's word. I dig, I read, and I find out. Because I'll tell you what, if you listen to any, I'm talking printed, internet, TV, mainstream media of any sort. And there's thousands of sources out there that are mainstream media. If you listen to anything they say, you're being herded down the path of deception. Don't look over here, because we want you all focused over here. Look at the riots over here that we're plastering on television 24/7, or on the radio, or in all these news articles, even YouTube. They have mainstream media all over YouTube. You got to go to alternative sources. Just because they're on YouTube or just because they're on the internet doesn't mean they're not mainstream. A lot of mainstream media everywhere, and you have to look at where the source is coming from. Because while they're over here televising all these riots, the legislature's busy passing bills. Yep, U.S. and local legislatures. Governors passing executive orders as if they apply to private men and women. They don't. Take off your fucking mask. You're on a mandatory lockdown, get out, breathe some air. Inform these law enforcement people. It's not the police that are our issue. They don't even have jurisdiction over us. They have jurisdiction over the public. The sheriff has jurisdiction over us. If you run into a problem with a cop, request the sheriff immediately and his supervisor. The cop's supervisor and the sheriff. The sheriff are the ones that we elect. They are for the people. They are not for the public. They're for the private men and women. The sheriff is. They're duly elected. The cop isn't duly elected. The chief of police isn't duly elected. He's appointed by who? The municipality. How can he do that? Because of the codes and the regulations and the laws. Because the Virginia Code is how the Virginia corporations regulate themselves. They don't have shit to do with you or I. Unless you give them jurisdiction over you. Don't give it away, folks. It's all we have. Do not give away your jurisdiction ever. Learn what it is and never give it up. Stand on it always. Don't be belligerent. Always be kind and be willing to spread the word. Be willing to educate some of these people. Some of them probably do know it. And once they find out you know it, they might just treat you a little bit different. Be respectful. Don't be an asshole. Don't start raising a fuss. You don't have jurisdiction. Don't do that. Talk to the people. Have some documentation with you if you feel that you need it, which you may need it. So just put it in your glove box. Put it in your glove box. Hopefully you never need it. Damn, this is over an hour long. I can't believe I'm back in my driveway. We just did a trip around Virginia Beach. So glad to have you guys aboard. This is truly a journey. This is a self-motivated journey that I'm on because I am a self-motivated person. I don't need someone to tell me what to do. I damn sure don't need someone to tell me what not to do. So, anyway, love y'all. Peace!